morning. My name is Lakshmi Mahadevan, and it's just easier maybe to call me Dr. M if you want to refer to me at all. The time we have together. I have done a lot of work in the last 15, 20 years on working with special populations and making sure that all the education that's available to us is accessible. Okay, so that's kind of my field. But along the way, I started doing a lot of work related to mental health, and unfortunately, the last 3 or 4 years, we've had a little bit more interest and need in this area for coping with grief, anxiety, and stress. So it sounds to me, okay, so you're going to just do it one-on-one with them?
Yes.
Okay, great. I have a Deborah here who's kindly willing to help Spanish translate for me. So and Deborah, if you want me to pause and go back to something that, okay? Because I speak a lot and fast. I apologize for that. All right, so with a show of hands, tell me, or you can actually say it out loud. Do you feel there's been more higher need for us to have better coping skills in the last 2 or 3 years than maybe before? Sure. Yeah. Worse, huh? More than ever. Yeah. More than ever. And it's rather, I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing that you're realizing it, and because I've had to do this presentation 5 times in the past 2 years with a variety of individuals. And everybody has said, yes, we need this, and it's not getting any better, okay? So my hope is that what we got today is something that we can keep with us for even future concerns, okay? Because resilience is all about the future, okay? So I start by asserting that we are resilient, okay? You may not feel that in some moments. So you're like, no, I don't feel resilient right now, but it is true we are, and I'll show you how. But before we do that, let me get a definition. Does anybody here want to tell me what they think resilience is? No, you want to tell me? Anybody up? Yes, sir.
Resilience is the ability to bounce back after some kind of trouble.
Absolutely, right? And we also made the sort of the comment about not just bouncing back, but keeping your shape, keeping what you look like before you bounce, more or less the same. You're not like totally destroyed after the bounce and you went through. You were going to say something?
I was going to say, I believe it's cope.
Yes, ability to cope and then come out of what you're coping with, right? And so, yes, and then so stay strong through the whole thing, right? Now, does anybody feel on a daily basis that your resilience is tested? Every darn day, right? Every day. You should be proud that I just said darn. But when it comes to resilience, we get tested constantly, right? We get tested by grief. We get tested by anxiety. We get tested because of stress. So what do we do? How do we cope? Okay. So I'm going to first of all remind us what resilience is, my definition of it. And I want you to think as we go through this, whether you think this, say this to yourself or others. Okay. I'm going to do this little magical thing you did before.
Not working.
Yeah, you do. Just touch what you did before. There we go. Good. Perfect. So it's a thought process. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, it's the best way to think of it as a thought process that allows you to think these things, the yeses. Okay. And usually, yes, but is annoying, right? When you say something to somebody, they say yes, but don't say the but, just say the yes. But a lot of us do it. But in terms of resilience, I think it's a good thing because I want you to say the rest. Okay. Yes, but let's look at the bright side. Okay. Does anybody here say that?
Yes.
Yeah, do you say that normally to yourself or to others? Sometimes, good. Yes, but it could have been worse. You say that, good. Yes, but I'm sure it'll get better. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yes, but I have hope. Anybody say that? Certainly in the last 2 or 3 years, you have to say that, right? Yeah, very good. Okay, good. So we have some yes buts. Now there might be others, okay, but these are some things that we're saying it already now. I want you to think of as being resilient. Okay, to start with. Okay, then you have the okays. This is, oops, sorry. Okay, that didn't work. Let's try something different. How many of us say that? Some do? Good. That didn't work. Let's try something different, right? Or, okay, not doing that again or ever in the future.
Yes.
Yeah. Good. Good. Nothing wrong with actually being very strong about not doing something either, okay? Not a bad thing. Learn the lesson and apply it, okay, constantly. And that's a good thing, okay? Okay, we'll try again tomorrow.
Yes, again, another time.
Another time, not tomorrow. I'm too irritated right now. I'll try in a few days. Very good. Okay, I'll get into this emotion now. And whatever that emotion is, tears, anger, yelling, okay? Give into it, but know that you have to stop and come out and calm down. Okay, resilience is knowing that you have to calm down. Resilience is not just staying in that and just going on yelling, okay? Resilience is calming down, okay? So just know you can go in and go ahead and be irritated and throw things around. You need to do whatever you need to do to get out of that, but calm down afterwards, okay? And it's okay to have that emotion. Unfortunately, as far as I'm concerned, resilience is whatever gets you through where you don't ultimately attempt to or die by suicide. Okay, that is what resilience is. And in our case, we have to think about it like that because it's become so in the last 2 or 3 years. It isn't just about coping with everyday stuff anymore. It's about coping and staying alive. Because so many of us have unfortunately given in and decided that suicide is the only way. Okay, so I do this with the military, and that's why I went to go ahead and straight to them that you've got to think about this as the only thing that is keeping you from giving in. Okay, so resilience is what, and we don't think about it. We think we're not strong, but if you say these things to ourselves, we are. Okay, and it is not hard work because if you say, "I look at the bright side," if you say, "I'm not ever going to do this again," what are we saying? We're talking about the future. Anytime we focus on the future, we are resilient, okay? By wallowing in the present, that's what causes us to not be resilient, okay? But if we say something about tomorrow, a few days, 25 months, it's okay. But the point is to do something for the future. That's what you're doing. Get you through this moment so you focus on the future, okay? So this grief is not going to last. This stress is not going to last, okay? This anxiety is going to last for a little bit, but eventually I'm going to come out of it, okay? That's what we want to think of as resilient, okay? All right, now let's identify what stresses us. Now, lots of stuff stresses us, like you said, every day, right? However, I decided to like boil it down and so that then you can put your own sort of question marks in there as to what stresses you, okay? But to me, what stresses us is something that was said, something that was not said, okay? Something that was done and something that was not done, okay? And then it is something that keeps on recurring over and over again without the problem ever being solved, okay? And a question that was unexpected, that we felt unprepared. These are things that stress us. I've left question marks there because I want you to keep thinking about what else stresses you, okay? Usually if you think about it, it boils down to this, really. That's what stresses us, okay? Is that something that was said or done or not done and not said, okay? Inevitably. Unfortunately, it's always external too, right? So we got to find our own resources from internal because people who don't say, don't do will continue on in life, okay? We are the ones who need to find a way to cope with them, okay? So this stressing thing is going to go on with us, but we got to figure out how to identify this and make it less stressful for us. Okay? So now I'm going to give you a technique to do that. Before I move on, any questions? Am I speaking too fast? You sure? You'll tell me, right, if I was?
I'm just thinking about stress. Sometimes stress can occur because maybe of illness, and maybe people losing jobs, and
No, lots of sources. Yeah. And again, I say that stress is in the eyes of the whole. Okay, which means what stresses you may stress you, but not me. Okay, what traumatizes you may traumatize you, but not me. Okay, and I'm not in a position to sit here and judge. Say, why are you stressed by this? You know, well, just because I'm not stressed does not mean you should not be either. Okay, so you're right, Matt. It could be anything, any source of anything on the job, illness, anything on a daily basis could be something that I would sit here and say, oh, that stresses me so much, and somebody else says, what? What is so stressful about that, right? It's not fair for us to then say, well, you're not stressed enough as married, so then that stresses you too. It's annoying. We don't do that because that is annoying, because that ultimately it's your feelings. What you feel is what you feel. Okay, do not in any way decide that, first of all, that you shouldn't feel it. We'll talk a little bit about that, but also about what somebody else should feel. because we have no control over, even if they are our close partner, family member, does not matter. We still cannot in any way own anything they feel or do. We can only do what we can for ourselves, okay? All right, and that's why those question marks are there. I want you to think about what else you want to add to those question marks, okay, on a daily basis that make you stressed, okay? All right, so now I want you to now self-assess, okay? Now that we know what stresses us, or the fact that we're stressed, after a while, the reason doesn't even matter. We're just feeling it now. We're stressed, so let's figure it out, okay? I do want you to take the time to figure out what is going on with you, okay? So if you can, I want you to find a space that's physically quiet, if you're lucky. If you're not lucky, in your mind, okay? It's okay. Just try to find a quiet space in your mind. Because there's a thought occurring in your mind, and you need to be able to pause enough to understand what's going on with that thought, okay? Thought could be, it's very fleeting sometimes, it's very quick, it's very dramatic, could leave a lot of impact on you. Unless you stop and catch it and process it, it's already, decided to do its damage, okay, which is grief, anxiety, stress, whatever you're feeling. Okay, so instead you want to practice recognizing that thought and naming it, okay? And I also want you to feel what you feel without self-recrimination, which means don't criticize yourself, don't judge yourself, okay? I told the previous group, it's okay if you're feeling a little bit violent right now too. It's okay, not act on something, just feel it, because it's your thought, it's your feeling, okay? When we sit and judge ourselves and criticize ourselves, what are we doing? We're stressing ourselves even more, okay? So instead, we're already feeling this bad thing, whatever we are feeling, by adding more judgment to it, by telling ourselves, don't feel it. What's the first name says? Bert, don't feel this, it's just gonna make you worse, okay? So instead, you wanna do, Bert, feel what you feel, okay? Because after I feel what I feel, I can process it. I can decide what to do with this, okay? The nice thing about the feeling and whatever the thought is, it is basically a way to tell us, just go through and experience it, okay? Don't stop yourself, okay? And don't shut it off, okay? It might go on for a little bit, it's fine, let it go. Let it, if those of us who know this, sometimes we have this, even unfortunately panic attacks, right? Anybody experience that, the thought after thought after thought after thought, it just keeps going and going and going on until you've reached a place where you're president and you're being assassinated, right? You reach that entire gamut of feelings, right? You've gone through the whole thing and built up this entire scenario in your mind that has nothing to do with the reality, but it's your thoughts are out of control. So what we want to do is stop it. But we don't want to, at this point, let it go, because stopping is not going to help us right now. Okay, you just feel it. But I do want you to make a mental note. That's different from just saying, okay, I'm feeling this, but I want you to actually think about this and say, can I deal with this right now? If you can, great, because we'll show you a process, way to process it, okay? But we might also be at the phase where we cannot deal with it, could get us fired, we want to deal with it. It is not a point in this life right now, in this particular day, that we can do something about it. Instead, we might have to table it. But the point is, we are going to table it and revisit it. Okay, we're not just going to let it go, because it's going to come back, and it's going to come back worse. Okay, so we want to definitely go back and revisit it. And then we're going to find ways to minimize the impact of those feelings. Okay, so what do we do? I'm going to ask you to think about either words or numbers, okay, depending on what you have more, what's easier for you, okay? Words are good, but we don't often have feelings that we can always put a word to, right? We just feel it. And so then I wanted to think about intensity, okay? So we have 5 through 11. I purposely put the higher scale here, okay? And I want you to decide, I feel a 10. I feel a 12. There's not enough numbers on this for what I feel, okay? It could be anything. It really could be anything. So I want us to really, really think about and number it if you can. Now, if you can name it, even better, because 5 is about, let me be irritated, okay? 6 is upset, all the way through 11, which is shattered, like beyond, like you really need to put the pieces back together for yourself, okay? So what we want to do is find words, if you can, to describe what you're feeling, or use a number. If you can't find the word. I don't want us to go looking for a dictionary at this point. We just want to deal with the feeling here. And the reason we want to number this feeling is then how much work do we need to do to cope with it, okay? That's what we need to do. Now, does everybody here agree that there are some things that can be at a 5, but there are some things that cause us to be at 11? Yes. And does it happen every day that some of us are somewhere in between?
Yeah.
like a 7 or an 8 or 11, right? If you're at 11 all day, you have to be careful. If you're at a 5 all day, it's great. You have better coping skills than we know, okay? But being all day, any of this is not good either. Okay, so we're gonna have to do better by ourselves, so we don't always like function at this high level of stress, okay, or this intensity of feeling. Okay, so what do we do next? We think about becoming more resilient. Why? Because the number of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 is taking our resilience and our yes buts and our okays and saying this is not enough. We need to do more. Okay. So how do we do it? What do we do? I want us to just get out of this moment and get to the next. Okay. And what we need to do is stop thinking. Our brains are like overactive at this point. Those thoughts are too much. We need to get out of that. Okay. So what we need to do is use our other senses. Okay. So it could be touch, smell. It could be hearing, seeing. Okay. You could basically want to detract from thinking. Okay. I really like to think of things like kinesthetic, like a stress ball would be great, you know. But what you could also do is look at tomorrow's calendar and say, okay, nothing is working today, but what can I do tomorrow that I could be successful at? Okay. Yeah, I can do this tomorrow. Oh, I can do this tomorrow. That's great. You know, I don't have to always remember at what I failed today. I can plan for success tomorrow. So look at tomorrow's calendar. If you're like me, you could book travel 6 months ahead. A lot of fun. And you get a good ticket for something, you plan, and you're like 6 months from now, I'm getting the heck out of here. Okay, you can write that to yourself. It's great. Put it on the calendar, and get your ticket, a non-refundable ticket. You gotta go. Okay? No matter what COVID says, I'm going. Okay, just plan. Okay, just plan. Plan for 6 months from now, down the future. Okay, so it's very, very important. Take your child, talk to your child. Now, I told the previous group, don't talk to the child if they're going to irritate you. Okay? Talk to the child if it helps them, if it makes you feel comfortable. Or pet, actually looking at a child, or pat your, pet a cat or dog or something, you pet that, okay? My poor dog, she's become a stressful person. She's going to realize that she's a chihuahua. She's very kind, but after a while, she's like, just stop. But she doesn't know, sometimes I'm operating at 11, so I really need to, take a deep breath. So we're going to teach you how to do this. Okay, so I'm going to have you all pause. I'm going to have you close your eyes. And then I'm going to have you inhale. Now, you're going to use my voice now, but otherwise, to detract from thinking, you're going to pick the numbers and count them in our mind. Okay? For her, she can do 1, 2, you can do 1. She can listen to my voice for 1, 2, 3, 4, right? You don't need, okay, very good. And then we'll do pause, hold, and then we'll let it out for 8. Okay? But letting it out for 8, if your breath doesn't last to 8, it's okay. It's just a long exhale. I want you to do. Everybody ready? Okay. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Let it go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Congratulations, my friends. You learned how to breathe. We didn't know we could breathe, right? We tend to just take it for granted, just do it every day. And it turns out it's stress buster. You know why? Because you're sending oxygen to this part of the brain. Okay, but this is the part of the brain that allows us to do the work. It tells us to think about doing something else because our resilience is low at this point. But if you're operating back here, which is our amygdala, we're in the fight, flight, freeze mode, okay? Which is why we get stuck and we get stressed and we get anxious and we get grief and all that stuff and it's all low and we stay on it, okay? By asking our breath to help us, we're basically giving ourselves resources. Now, you might be operating at a 10 or 11 today, in which case I might have you breathe for 5 minutes, not just for the one time I did it. Elongate your breathing if you need to, okay? Don't think of this as some kind of major levitation or doing something that you've got to do, go to a yoga class. No, I don't want you to think about adding and making something more stressful for you. This is simply, you're like one of those people, you know, when you think about, oh God, they might tell you, I do 1 hour meditation. No, this is just breathing. I don't want you to take this as a burden. This is just something you do in real time. You had that annoying conversation with your boss. You come back to the office, you come away from the boss and you breathe. to get you through this moment so you don't get fired the next moment. Okay. You just want to do this because this is something you can do in real time. Okay, and we want to do it almost as instantly as we can, and no going away. I feel a 6, I feel an 8, gotta breathe. Okay, that's how I want you to think. Okay, does everybody feel like they can at least use the breath thing right now? As you get irritated with me, you could. Okay. All right, and then I want you to think about squeezing a stress ball. There might be some out there on that on the tables out there. But basically, take something with texture, press it, it'll help you a lot. Okay, so it's also very nice, but these stress balls are made out of some material that you feel is under your control. So it doesn't slip out of your hand. You want to feel success at something, okay? You don't want to feel like I'm going to hold the stress ball. You don't want to do that. Okay, so you want to feel the success. And then you have writing or typing a journal note. If you can, you can put it in your phone under your notes section. It's okay. Just something, type it out, okay? And I had a friend, I went to a journaling lecture, I suppose. And it was very interesting what they suggested. They said also, for those of us who don't enjoy journaling, writing pages and pages, first suggestion was writing dialogue. Okay, so you actually, have an imaginary dialogue with your boss, if you wish, or whoever it is that is really stressing you out right now. Put words in their mouth, you speak to them, and it's very cathartic, okay? You can say everything that you feel you want to say out loud, but will get fired for to this person in an imaginary way, and it's very cathartic, okay? So you could do dialogue as a journal, and then you just spew it all out, and then you delete the note or burn up the paper or whatever, but you use it to help you get past what you need to say, because otherwise it's stewing, the thoughts are there, it's going to keep ruminating. Okay, so we need to get it out. We do that through dialogue, okay? All right, and then we're going to practice what's called mindfulness, and I'm going to show you how to do that. It's called STOP, S-T-O-P. Okay, the word mindfulness, if you search for it on the internet, you'll see a lot of stuff, and it can be a little bit too much. This one I'm going to have you do very, very easily with something that we can do cognitively that we can all do, and we can do it on a daily basis, okay? S part of the stop is stop and take stock, okay? Which means you figure out what are you feeling right now? What is my experience right now? What am I thinking, okay? And along with your thinking, you don't realize it, but you're also feeling, right? There must be some anger, there might be some upset, there might be a little bit of some feelings that are harder to name, but you can number, okay? And then you got sensations. Okay, right now I'm gonna have you all drop your shoulders. Perfect. How many of you didn't even know your shoulders are up here until I made you drop it? Okay, we have some sensations we just don't even realize we are feeling. We're so tense right here all the time. We don't realize what we're doing, and we just clench and we just hold everything tight. But we got to, unless somebody deliberately tells us, or we do it on our own, we keep feeling the stress in our body without even realizing it. Okay, so we just need to figure out these things and be purposeful about it and do it on purpose. So dropping your shoulders is one thing I want you to think about doing as much as possible. Then we're going to use our breathing technique to help us send oxygen to this brain, this part of the brain, because I want us to examine that thought, that feeling, okay, or that emotion. And then once you've examined it, I want us to remind ourselves purposely that this is not permanent, what I'm thinking. Okay, this is not an actual fact. The nice thing about our thoughts most of the time is that they're not permanent. They're just our feelings and thoughts that just on a daily basis is our perception of something. Okay, and so it is possible for it not to be a fact. Go figure. Okay, maybe not real. And so what we want to do is at least tell ourselves that for that minute. Okay, and then whatever physical sensations we have, we're going to make sure that we feel it. So tension in the body could be there. We might have some pain. Some of us might be, right now you might be feeling slumped. If you're feeling slumped in your chair, you might want to sit up. And you'll realize, oh, I was slumped. Didn't know it. I was putting all this extra pressure on the back, the small of my back. Instead, you want to sit up and you can stretch your back, okay? Or clenched jaw, okay? Or you might be breathing, that kind of shallow breathing. Instead, you'll do the deep breath that I just showed you. Okay, so you have a few different ways in realizing what you're feeling right now and what that physical sensation might be that goes on. Once you've identified all this, it gives you all that time then to come out and look around you with fresh eyes. Okay, and thought was not permanent. I was feeling really upset. I was feeling a 5 or a 6. I needed to do my breathing. Let me know. I have a little bit more time now to look at it with fresh eyes. Now, I don't want you to come out thinking the problem is solved, or that what was annoying you or stressing you is going to be less annoying or stressful, but your perception of it has changed. Okay, so you are going to be less stressed, less annoyed. Does that make sense? Okay, so now that we have more resources to deal with it, what we'll do is we'll be more open and curious to some solutions. Okay, or at least at the very least say, can I do anything about it? No. Can I stop stressing about it? Yes. Okay, and that would be the best solution at this point. And then you just find a better way to cope with it. Okay. And then you want to do something a little bit further than this. You might want to look out the window. You might want to pet your dog. You might want to have not alcohol, but tea or coffee or water, something like that, to help you cope with whatever it is. A little bit extra self-care. Okay. More self-care than just the thinking and processing. Make sense? So we come out of this feeling a lot more refueled, literally refueled. Okay. So that when you see something now, it is just less, what's the word for it? Less irritating, but also I'm thinking like, when you have that very poking sensation that keeps poking at you, you feel the poke is less sharp, less intense, okay? So you might go from 11 to 8 or 5 even, okay? All right, very good. Next, self-care. You're all familiar if you have worked with or are a person with a disability, you probably have the what is it called? Person-centered plan, right? We talk about that. What is important to you? What is important for you? So that is in the same realm here. I want us to do a self-examination. How many of you like to take a walk? Very good. Remember that. How many of you like to talk to a friend if you're stressed? Very good. How many of you are the kind who can drink tea and feel better? Nice. Good. Very good. How many of you, I don't know, watch cat videos on YouTube? You can own up to it if you do. There you go. How many of you, I play games on my phone until I have to pay and then I stop. Listen to music. Listen to music, yes. How many of you like to listen to very loud music and yell at? Very good. These are your things, okay? I want you to remember these are the things that make you feel better. Don't go out feeling that this is something that makes you feel worse. Take things that make you feel better. Okay, yelling at the computer helps you, great. Okay, if walking helps you, great. Drinking tea helps you, very good. Yelling loud in music is good. All of that is good only if it helps you. So gauge for yourself. Okay, how you feel. The same way you number your stress, you number your relaxation. Okay, this really does help. Now, you might have to listen to music for 4 hours before you cope with 11, but it's okay. It's okay. You got the 4 hours, but you feel better. But you decide what physical activities help me. You can exercise, you can walk, just sit on the grass. That might be great, okay? My dog does have most of my yards. I have to find the spot, but it's too fine. I can sit on the grass. I did resolve finally to buy a blanket that I put out there, so she's not allowed to mess everything up. What psychological activities help me? Journaling is a good way to think about it. You could even find, if you can, if you're lucky enough, find counseling or therapy. Right now they're virtually available. Okay. Emotional activities. I don't mind us being able to emote, laugh. Those cat videos, they're very good for laughing. You can use them. Crying is okay. Screaming is okay. And silence is also okay. Okay, I actually went on a 48-hour retreat once. Imagine me being quiet for 48 hours. But it was the best thing I could do for myself because I finally could listen to myself, okay, other than everybody else, or feel like I have to speak all the time. Okay, those are great burdens not to have. Okay, and you can then actually be in silence. It's a great thing. So now I practice it every day for 5 minutes. Okay, because it's hard with my dog. I have to talk to her too, so I have to just be quiet. And then relationships. Now, I don't want you to pick somebody who would annoy you more. Okay, so you pick somebody who really would make you feel better. And also, I like to think of it this way: pick somebody who you can even be silent with. That's also important. Okay, so just stay in silence with somebody because you're so comfortable with them that neither of you are just compelled to talk. It's a good thing. Okay, so a family member, a friend, your spouse, your partner, even your pet, could be somebody who you can help me, whose relationship with you is good. What work activities help me? I love checking off to do things on my computer. I love that. Okay, or you flag your emails and then you unflag them, and it's really very satisfying. Or finishing a deadline, or taking on a deadline. You shouldn't have, but it's really nice because you can get to a place of getting some challenges that you can work towards, rather than, so you can feel success with something rather than whatever you feel you're failing at. Okay. And then any other combination. Now, the thing about this is that if you're feeling of 10, 11, 8, 9, you might have to walk, pet your dog a little bit more, and listen to music all at the same day. Okay. It's okay. Pick something, but pick a combination of something because you just need it. Okay. And pick the combination that will help you, not make it feel worse. Okay. But it might be a combination of this. Or you might have to pick something new because it is not working. And it's okay. It's okay. The last 3 years, something that might have helped you cope may not help you cope anymore. You might have to do something more. Okay. And it's okay. Not negative, just positive things that you could still do. Okay. Find a new friend, maybe. Find somebody who you could find a new work partner who would help you write a grant or something. It's something that gets you out of that slump, and then realize that there are coping skills you've had but need to be tweaked or changed or adjusted. Okay, this time. Because you have newer challenges, you all do. Okay. And finally, what doesn't help me? The other thing about admitting to yourself that you need more is important as well. Okay, because it's not bad to think you need help. Okay, it's not bad to self-help. It's not bad to self-care. All of us who are in the caregiving business, we tend to think we're selfish. We're not. If you give yourself care, that's the only way you can care for others, right? So just remember, you need to be taking care of yourself. You cannot go to somebody angry. Okay, it's not going to help them in your job. If you're going to go to somebody and be angry at it, and then ultimately for them, they don't get the care they deserve because you haven't taken the time to breathe before you go. Okay, or you haven't taken the time to recognize your thoughts, table them, and then go back. Okay. All right. Very good. Now that we have a plan, let me ask you what questions. Because then we have had 12 times, I apologize. Anybody have any questions for me? Does anybody think you can do something right now that you've learned today? You have a whole bunch of tools you can use, sir. You have some great stuff. What about you? Anybody can do something right now to help you cope with the stress of the day?
Breathing.
The breathing. Thank you. Very good. You do the breathing right now. I'm going to teach you one more before you leave. I want you to all clench it as much as you can. Tight. Really tight. As tight as you can. If you can make the rest of your body tight, that's great too. Let go. Let it go. Let your arms fall. Fall. Okay. You didn't even know you were so clenched until you unclenched. Okay. There are parts of you that were clenched. You didn't even recognize it, and now go up. So you might have to do this. It might look a little strange to somebody going, but it's okay. It's better than Very good. Does anybody have any other questions for me or some suggestions for what you think could be helpful to add to your coping skills?
I don't do journals, right? But one thing I do is sometimes when I'm driving, I create, that person that stresses me.
Oh,
And I kind of talk to the person out loud in my,
love it.
as I'm driving.
Yeah.
And people probably will think I'm singing.
Who cares about people? This is about you.
Just talking to that person.
I love it. I love it. You just imagine that person.
Yeah,
And you-
dialogues in their mouths.
Yeah, people get a living out of that stuff. That's great. I love it. Because you find yourself when you do confront that person, you feel calmer, right? You don't actually say out loud. Very good, excellent. All right. Anybody have any other questions or thoughts? Is this a good thing that you don't have questions? I always worry. Either I made no sense, or everybody got everything and they don't have everything they need in my presentation. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I think there's enough was there enough handouts stuff?
Do we have enough evals?
Yes. Okay. So we have evaluations and we will be recorded. We apologize, but only your audio is on it. None of us on camera. So